to do an informative speech or a persuasive speech. So these two are the ones that are mostly used, I believe, in corporation businesses or any organizations, that we work at. The other two, to entertain, to inspire, it's more likely in your own personal life or in special, extraordinary occasions. So you don't have to look at that too much if you want to. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the specifics of those purposes. So, to inform is all about teaching people how to develop a new skill or letting them know a little bit more about the subject matter. So if you talk outside of that, you might confuse the person. So the kind of language you use in an informative speech, you want to tailor it to your audience in mind. Meaning, if you're going to inform someone about something, one, you assess the audience. You think, you assess the audience at what level are they listening at. If they are at my level, as in less, do they know as much as me about this topic? Do they know less than me about this topic? Or do they know more than me about this topic? And because of that assessment, then you tailor your speech according to what language you use. If they're at the same level as you, perhaps you can use more jargon. You don't have to pull your punches. Like, for example, just now Bobby was talking about pathways and I don't know, level 1s and level 2s and VPEs, and half the room understood him because we're Toastmasters, and the other half goes, I don't know what he's on about. So in an informative speech, you want to make sure that everyone in the audience can understand you. So if you know there's someone in there who's not exactly at your level, you want to be sure that you explain a little bit, but not too much, so that the other half goes, okay, they're over-explaining and they get bored because they already know it. So that's to inform. Next, to persuade, to change the audience's behaviors or attitudes and to convince the audience to accept your point of view. So that is to persuade. For example, I'm doing a budget presentation. I want to apply for this budget and I'm going to convince my boss I want them to invest in my idea with this amount of money for the next quarter. And because of that, you have to put up a persuasive front. Why should he pay you that money? Why should he put so much money into you when other people also need it? So you can tell boss, you need this because it will give you lots of profit. You need this because it gives you lots of marketing, etc., etc. So when it comes to persuasive speech, the number one thing you have to think about is also your audience in the case of what do they want to hear? What is most likely to attract them? See how different it is from informative? Informative is about what they understand and what they don't understand, and how do you bridge that gap between their understanding. For persuasive, it's about what do they need and what do I provide and how do I bridge that. If I provide this product, how do I make my audience need it? And that's how you persuade them to take your viewpoint. Next up, to entertain, to amuse or provide enjoyment for an audience. Going through it briefly, the language used here is also different in the case that you're using more bombastic words. There are elements sometimes, of entertainment in informative and persuasive speech, because sometimes you don't want the audience to die. You don't want them to lose attention. You don't want them to go, this is really boring, and they stop listening to you, and then suddenly the reason you're there doesn't matter anymore because no matter what you say, it's not going to go in. So because of that, you throw in a couple of jokes, a couple of stories and anecdotes, a couple of case studies and interesting facts and stories and figures to make people interested in listening to you. And that's how the to entertain comes in. And the way you do that is by making things more descriptive, more adjectives. Blow things out of proportion, Instead of saying, I tripped, I fell down, you say things like, I kicked the rock, I flew, I can feel my leg going over my head, slamming against the floor, so painful, I walk until I cannot walk. You describe things like that, and suddenly, I fall down becomes funny instead of sad. So it's all about spinning things in a different perspective, and that's how you're entertaining. Like, for example, something really small, like, I got a toothache. You spin it out of proportions, you go like, sakit, you know. I think you have to extract. This tooth has been with me for 25 years, and now it's no longer going to be part of my body. And later I will tell the dentist to keep it with me so I can keep it in my room, you know, in my hati forever, so I don't lose it. Even 25 years and beyond, it will still be with me. So, you know, that's how you entertain. You just blow it out of proportion. And but use it in moderation, because if you're going to give a report to your boss and you do that, I'm not sure he likes that very much. I don't know, it depends on your boss, how maybe he likes, but maybe you won't get the budget approved. And lastly, to inspire, ask people to achieve their noble goals or ideals or reach their highest potential. And this is not something that you learn overnight. You know, in fact, this is hard to cover within this presentation itself, because it involves all three: to inform, to persuade, to entertain. And that's how you inspire people, because you make them feel for you. I don't know how much did Stuart say in this presentation, but there's something that speakers always say, which is there's three parts to any speaker. Your credibility, who you are as a person, what you've done, what you've achieved. Simply just by coming out here and knowing your experience, people will believe you, because you look like you know what you're saying. That's your credibility. And the next two is the logic and the emotions. So credibility, logic, and emotion makes up a good speaker. So I've explained about credibility. Logic is when you support your points with facts and figures and case studies. When you tell people, this is good for you because of this. This is good for you because this has proven to work with this person. So this is the logic of things. It makes you believe in it because you know it works. Emotion is when you put into things like, don't you feel like you would save so much money if you adopt this? Imagine the kind of things you can spend the money on if you save it by buying this. My toothpaste can last you 2 years. How long can your toothpaste last you now? 2 months? That's why you need mine. See? It's emotional. Toothpaste can be emotional. I'm getting emotional just thinking about my toothpaste. I need to buy a new one. Alright. So that's it for the 4 general purpose. So once you know, yes, please, Adina, you have a question that I hope I can answer.
So with emotions, right, the 3 key things for a speaker, does it apply to information? When you're trying to inform, do you need emotions?
It could, because I think some people perceive things in different ways. Some people are more swayed by logic, and some people are more swayed by emotions. If you tell a more sensitive or considerate person about the facts and figures, they wouldn't care about it so much as if you tell them how many people will be affected by it. Right? And that's how you can weave it into it in a logical way. So, for example, what's a good example? You and your dad are sitting in a car, true story, and there are 2 roads. One is longer but has less speed bumps, and the other is shorter but has more speed bumps. And I want to go for the speed bumps because it's more fun, and he wants to go for the longer one because it's not. And he's telling me with logic, it's faster. I can go faster because there are no speed bumps. You get there faster. But then I'll tell him, but I want the speed bumps because it's more fun. I get to spend more time with you. Isn't that great? So they're both points to consider, and one's based in logic and one based on emotion. And you can basically use both of them, even in an informative speech, because in the end they're both points, if that makes sense. The only thing is to try and spin it in a way that doesn't blow it out of proportion. You don't want to be too emotional to the point where people think you're being too dramatic. And then you don't want to be too into facts and figures until people think you're a robot. So it's all about things in moderation and balance. And that's what speaking is about. Any other questions? I'm more than happy to answer.
Just want to comment, because talking about Stuart, the topic that he usually talk about is rhetorics. So logos, pathos, and ethos, which is basically the terms that you were describing just now. Logos on logic, ethos on credibility, I think, and pathos on emotions.
I don't know, we like to use the Latin words, it's just so fancy. But no one learns Latin in July. But we all know what logic and emotion is.
It just sounds fancy. Just a fancy way to say it.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes I like to be fancy too, I like to drink me up. So this is the general purpose, yeah? This is the last point in my speech, which is specific purpose. Once you know which of the four things are you going to use, then you delve into this, which is, okay, let me just go ahead first. After hearing my speech, the audience will be able to do what? If I'm informing someone, after hearing my speech, the audience will be able to learn how to change their tire. If I'm giving a persuasive speech, after hearing my speech, the audience will be able to call me in the morning, something like that, for more information. Actually, the more things you add to that sentence, the better it is for you because it's more specific. Because you don't want to be like, after hearing my speech, the audience will be able to fix their bike. Because that's a bit illogical. There's no way that someone can learn how to do something after a very short speech. More realistic will be after hearing my speech, the audience will be able to maintain their bikes in two different ways. That's more specific and achievable. Which goes back to this. When you are choosing a specific purpose for your speech, you must think about three things. One, the audience. You must always have your audience in the center of your mind. Why you're doing this speech, you're doing it for the audience because you want them to do something, and what is it you want them to do? And second thing is, the thing that you want them to do must be very specifically stated out. You cannot leave any room for error, for misinterpretation, for miscommunication, or for mistakes, because then you might not have achieved your purpose if they didn't understand what you're saying. And thirdly, attainable. The target must be realistic and possible to achieve. When you ask them to do something, it must be something that, by the end of it, you can be sure they know how to do it. You can't come up with lofty things like, by the end of the speech, your life will be changed forever. What does that mean? I don't know. Change in what way? Only you will know. Because that doesn't work that way. So it must be specific, it must be attainable. I'm not going to change your life if I don't know how am I going to change your life, So that is it for my presentation, and just in time, no, I'm out by, no, actually just in time, I'm early by 4 minutes, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Because the next step we have is we're going to write the speech. We're going to write the speech, and it is this. Those of you who have attended my previous workshop, we did a workshop about how to choose a topic for your speech. What we're going to do is we're going to choose one of these topics. You could choose something a little bit more informative if you want, but given the fact that we only have about 20 minutes to write a speech, I would advise you not to because you have to do a lot of research on your phone and it's not very conducive in this kind of environment. So I would advise you choose a topic, maybe something to do with a story or something familiar to you, something that could fit into 2 to 3 minutes, any one of these topics. And later on, after 20 minutes, at 8:45, we'll begin to do speeches. So 2 to 3 minute speeches, ladies and gentlemen. This is why I advise everyone to get on the table. First come, first serve. If you have a table, you can write.
Anyone need paper?
All right. If anyone needs any paper, Charles is your guy. If you're like me and okay with typing on your phone, you can do that too. But in any case, you now have 20 minutes to write your speech. And I look forward to learning more about you and hearing your speech and stories at 8:45.
Camera.
Good luck, everyone. All the best.
Promise.
And
No.
Anyone?
take care.